Hi, my name's Harold Gutmann. I cover North Carolina for the Durham Herald-Sun. I'm here with my colleague Steve Wiseman, who covers Duke, and welcome to our game, ACC Tournament edition. It's been a long 4-month regular season, but we're finally here. And North Carolina and Duke end up with the same identical ACC records at 13-5. Duke won the tiebreaker based on their head-to-head win over Virginia, so they're the 3 seed. They'll play at 9:30 Friday night, and North Carolina will play as the 4 seed. They'll play at approximately 2:30. Kind of an interesting tournament we have to look forward to. Both teams kind of probably feel good about their chances. North Carolina's won 12 of the last 13 games. Their only loss was at Duke in that regular season finale. And Duke's actually beaten the other top 4 seeds. They beat Virginia and Syracuse and North Carolina, although all of those games were in Cameron. They weren't on the road, which may be something we can get into.
Yeah.
But let's get into it now. Steve, for Duke to win, what's the key to that?
Well, all year long, their defense, they have to play together on defense. They have to be engaged. And as I wrote earlier this week, they're a 500 team away from Cameron Indoor Stadium. They were undefeated at home, which is fine, but now they're not going to play there anymore,
right,
as you mentioned. So, one thing that the coaching staff has mentioned is they have to play angry. They have to be, like I said, focused and engaged. And so they're going to prod them to keep them kind of riled up. And at home, they get their energy from the fans. Right. On the road, not so much all the time. I mean, although they played really well at Syracuse in that loss, they won at Pittsburgh, which is traditionally a tough place to play. So they're not completely hopeless on the road like maybe Wake Forest has been at times this year. But they still have work to do in that department. They have to prove they can win consistently away from Cameron against the really good teams. And that's who they're going to face this weekend for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. With North Carolina, the focus on defense is kind of the same like what you were talking about. It's not your typical North Carolina team. They're not running up and down the court and outscoring teams. It's actually, Ken Pomeroy, who does statistics on college basketball, he ranks teams based on their tempo, and it's actually the slowest team that Roy Williams has had since he arrived in North Carolina. So their slowest team in 11 seasons. So they're not, like I said, they're not scoring in transition as much. And actually their defensive rankings are much higher than their offensive rankings efficiency-wise. So UNC is really, their calling card's been defense this year. It's not your typical maybe UNC team. And I think the key, just like you were talking about with Duke, the key for UNC is going to be that defensive intensity. They've played a lot of games in the 60s, even during their winning streak, and they've done well with that. So that would be a key. Now, on the flip side, what's the biggest obstacle to Duke winning that championship?
Well, they normally have to shoot well from three-point to beat really good teams. And playing 3 games in a row, you got to get your legs taken out from underneath you, especially because Duke's going to play the late game on Friday, turn around and play Saturday afternoon, 2 games in less than 20 hours. And then Sunday, if they can survive, they get to there. And so they're going to have to prove they can move the ball offensively and make shots inside or have the strength to hit the 3-pointers. Maybe that's where their depth will come in handy. Maybe he'll go with the 5-for-5 lineup, which he's used some, and other times he hasn't. They may have to do that with 3 games in 3 days to keep their stamina up.
Yeah, you mentioned the 3 games in 3 days. Marcus Page has played more minutes than any UNC player ever has under Roy Williams. He's averaging over 35.5 minutes. It hasn't affected him yet. He's even stronger in the second halves of games than he is in the first half. But you wonder if maybe the 3 games in 3 days will catch up to him, something he hasn't had to do this season. But if that's not the biggest obstacle, and obviously they need Marcus Page to play exceptionally well to win the tournament, it's going to be their zone offense. If you look at the teams they've struggled with, now everyone struggles again at Syracuse, at Virginia, and certainly UNC was non-competitive in both those areas. But the other team, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, these were they really, UNC struggled to get up to 60 points in those games, and those were teams that they zoned them up and they slowed it down on offense, and that's things that UNC struggled with this year. And so much of postseason play is matchups, but they're probably going to face like a Virginia or a Syracuse as they go down the line that's going to zone them up and slow it down, and UNC's going to have to deal with that. And Roy Williams said in his 26 years he's never been concerned about a team playing zone defense against him, and he is this year. So which kind of shows you what the obstacles that they're going to have to overcome. It's been a crazy up and down season. We'd expect nothing less at the Greensboro Coliseum this weekend. We'll be there. We hope to see some of you guys there, and we'll be back to talk about it next week on Our Game.